Tirpitz was the second of two Bismarck-class battleships built for Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine, prior to and during the Second World War. Named after Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, the architect of the Kaiserliche Marine, the ship was laid down at the Kriegsmarinewerft Wilhelmshaven in November 1936, and her hull was launched 2.5 years later. Work was completed in February 1941, when she was commissioned into the German fleet. Like his sister ship, Bismarck, Tirpitz was armed with a main battery of 8 38cm guns in twin turrets. After a series of wartime modifications, she was 2,000 tons heavier than Bismarck, making her the heaviest battleship ever built by an European navy. The two Bismarck-class battleships were designed in the mid-1930s by the German Kriegsmarine as a counter to the French naval expansion. Especially for the two Richelieu-class battleships France had started in 1935. After completing sea trials in early 1941, Tirpitz briefly served as a centerpiece of the Baltic Fleet, which was intended to prevent a possible breakout attempt by the Soviet Baltic Fleet. In early 1942, the ship sailed to Norway as act as a deterrent against the Allied invasion. While stationed in Norway, Tirpitz was also intended to be used to intercept Allied convoys to the Soviet Union. Tirpitz acted as a so-called fleet in a being, forcing the British Royal Navy to retain significant naval forces in the area to contain this battleship. Operation Source. The British were determined to neutralize Tirpitz and remove the threat she posed to the Allied Arctic convoys. Following the repeated ineffectual bombing attacks and the failed torpedo attack in October 1942, the British turned to the newly designed X-Craft midget submarines. They planned attack Operation Source, including attacks on Tirpitz, Scharnhorst and Lützow. The X-Craft were towed by a large submarine to their destinations, where they could slip under anti-torpedo nets and each drop two powerful 2-ton mines onto the seabed under the target. 10 vessels were assigned to the operation, scheduled for 20 to 25 September of 1943. 3 of the vessels, X5, X6 and X7, successfully breached Tirpitz defenses, 2 of which, X6 and X7, managed to lay their mines. The mines damaged the ship extensively. A fuel tank was ruptured, shell plating was torn. A large indetonation was formed in the bottom of the ship, and the bulkheads in the double bottom buckled. Water flooded into the ship's fuel tanks and void spaces in the double bottom of the port side, which caused a list of 1 or 2 degrees. The ship's 2 Arado AR-196 floatplanes were completely destroyed. Repairs were conducted by the repair ship Neumark. Repairs lasted until 2nd of April 1944, and full speed trials were scheduled for the following day in Altafjord. The final British attack. The final British attack on Tirpitz took place on 12 November 1944. The ship again used her 38cm guns against the bombers, which approached the battleship at around 9 o'clock. Tirpitz's main guns forced the bombers to disperse temporarily, but could not break up the attack. A force of 32 Lancasters dropped 29 tall boys on the ship, landing 2 direct hits and 1 near miss. Several other bombs landed within the anti-torpedo net barrier and caused significant cratering on the seabed. This removed much of the sandbank that had been constructed to prevent the ship from capsizing. 1 bomb penetrated the ship's deck between turrets Anton and Bruno, but failed to explode. A second hit amidships between the aircraft catapult and the funnel and caused sewerage damage. A very large hole was blown into the ship's side and bottom. The entire section of the armor belt breezed of the bomb hit, and it was completely destroyed. A third bomb may have struck the port side of turret Caesar. These hits caused significant flooding and quickly increased the port list to between 15 and 20 degrees. In 10 minutes, the list increased to 30 to 40 degrees, and the captain issued the order to abandon the ship. 8 minutes later, a large explosion rocked turret Caesar. The turret roof and part of the rotating structure were thrown 25 meters into the air and into a group of men swimming to the shore, crushing them. Tirpitz rapidly rolled over and buried her superstructure into the seafloor. The German forces in the Tromsø area endeavored to rescue the surviving members of Tirpitz's crew. Within 2 hours, around 600 had swum to shore or had been rescued from the water. Estimated of the total number of sailors and officers killed vary, with the most common figures lying between 900 and 1,200. The wreck was sold to a Norwegian scrap dealing company in 1948 and was broken up. The human remains, which were recovered from the wreck by escapers, were initially buried alongside unwanted parts of the Tirpitz, but discased following complaints by a local church minister. The remains of hundreds of others were recovered and buried in the Norwegian cemeteries. The remnants of the battleship that remains in the waters of Hakoya have been registered as a protected area and are treated as a war grave today.